Hello, everyone. Welcome to Harper Broadcast. I'm Anushka, and today we have with us Meera Ganapathi, whose recent book, How to Forget, has recently come out. It's a beautiful book and it's so brilliantly written. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with Meera. So, thank you for agreeing to do this, Meera.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Meera Ganapathi is a former advertising professional. She's also the founder and editor of the literary and arts publication, The Soup. She has also written various books for children, like The Girl Who Could Not Stop Laughing, Uma versus Upma, A Friend for Poochie, and Party versus Uncle. Very interesting titles, I must say. Her poems and short stories have appeared in several anthologies, including Cat People, A Case of Indian Marvels, dazzling short stories by India's finest writers. She currently lives in Goa with her baby, her partner, and her misunderstood cat, Apple. Why misunderstood, I must ask?
So Apple tends to be, she has this resting bitch face and she looks very grumpy. But deep
Okay,
inside, she's an affectionate soul, which literally no
okay.
one is, probably
Oh,
not even here.
that's
But yeah,
so cute. And that's a very cute name as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And Mira's latest book, How to Forget, has recently come out. People are loving it. I personally loved it. I have been recommending it to a lot of people because it's so beautifully written and it encompasses a lot of things which I feel are extremely central to humans' life and humanity itself. So I'm just excited to be asking Mira some questions and what I thought about the book. So the very first question is I have to ask because How to Forget it reads like a very quiet and contemplative meditation on loss, memory, life, love, childhood, a lot of things, and all of these things have been recorded or chronicled through a series of 55 walks. And I have to ask because when I was reading the book, it seemed like writing and walking, they seemed to be in tandem with each other. So
Yes.
as you were walking, each step sort of felt like a line, and each turn that you were taking sort of unfolded into a memory, which even you didn't know you have. So, how did you approach writing through walking? Like, what was the narrative and creative framework? And how did the act of walking shape your approach to writing?
So, an interesting thing about the way the book is laid out is that it's
Yeah.
meant to follow the nature of a walk.
Okay.
So, basically, like when we are on a walk, typically, if it's a short walk or a long one, we start off within our own heads and
Yeah.
probably with some kind of intention that I need to get to so and so place. But from there, you are basically engaging with the world, which is what I've tried to do, like someone who sets off looking at things around her and then
Yes.
maybe pauses to take a photograph.
Yeah.
Maybe the photograph leads to an old memory.
Yeah.
Maybe the old memory leads to some introspection.
Yeah.
And it's basically the way your mind works on a walk. So the book is laid out in that particular manner. So the writing also follows a walk in that sense, which is what you're saying, that you feel like it leads like a walk and the writing seems like a walk. So that was not my intention actually, but as I was putting it together, like usually when you arrange your poems, there has to be a manner and a method. So I remember discussing with Sohini, the editor, that how do we put this together? And she had some ideas and so did I, and I just laid out all of the poems on a large bed. And then I basically thought, how would one follow the other? And this is how, I felt this was the
Yeah.
best way to put it together, like a walk.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's a very, very poignant concept. Absolutely loved it. Which brings me to my second question about the title of the book, which is very interesting in itself. I feel like it is at once imperative, but at the same time, it's paradoxical because so many things in the book have sort of carry that connotation that you would like to take them with you, but at the same time, there have been things which have been too painful for you to carry.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, like, how did this title strike your mind? Did you feel that for you is forgetting an act of liberation or is that of erasure? And how do you navigate that space between remembrance and between release?
That's a really amazing question, actually. So I think forgetting is no longer an act of erasure. This is what I've figured out over time, that the more you tend to forget, the more you tend to lose. So
Yeah.
I feel like even if you lead yourself towards forgetting as much as possible, somewhere you're even afraid of losing those memories because those are the things that define you and make you who you are. So
Yeah.
just as much as for grief forgetting is important, for grief remembering is also important, because it's probably the only trace of love that remains. The person
Yeah.
is no longer there, and that all you have are their memories. So if you lose even that, then you've lost the person entirely. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is why we, in grief, we find it so difficult to overcome this feeling of it. It never ends. Grief never really leaves you, especially if you love that person deeply. You still
Mm.
feel that pain so many years later. So the
Yeah.
only thing that changes is not the memory. You
Mm.
don't forget, but you maybe remember things differently. You remember
Yeah.
in a slightly less blunt and slightly less painful manner. And over time, maybe
Mm.
those memories are rose tinted, but they are
Yeah.
there. And thank God they are there, because that's what makes you who you are.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And that's the you've summed it perfectly about grief, about memory, about people that you've loved. So yeah. That brings me to my next question. Was there something you rediscovered, maybe about yourself or the ways that you were observing the world while you were out on a walk, and especially when you were chronicling all those walks into How to Forget? Maybe something that you had previously overlooked or something you did not know about yourself, especially when you were compiling those observations together while writing the book.
I think I've discovered something very uh, actually very brave for myself. Usually, I like being around people. I like
Yeah.
surrounding myself in company. And what I realized is I actually really enjoy walking alone. I feel like it's the most meditative act, and it's the most like it's almost like therapy in some ways. So
Yeah.
I never thought I was capable of walking alone, but here I am with a book about walking. I better learn to be by myself and learn to experience these things one by one. And
Yes.
another thing is you discover things differently when you walk by yourself as opposed to with other people, and each person on each walk brings something different. Like there
Yeah.
are some people who will not stop talking, and those are also certain kinds of walks. Like the walk is flavored by their conversation. And there
Yeah.
are others who are also like you. They are like kind of interested in observing the world just as much. But who are you when you walk? I think that you also learn so much about yourself. Are you
True.
someone who's going to look at your phone and take pictures? Are you going to listen to your music on your phone? Or are you just going to be actually soaking everything in? So I
Mm.
think this is what I discovered, like how I am, who am I, and all of those very like deeply contemplative questions.
That reminds me of that piece that you have included in the book about cultivating a friendship through memes.
Yeah,
That was beautiful, especially in the digital age. I think that is how friendships work. You have to be in constant communication with each other through memes, if not anything else.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of people seem to connect with that particular piece a lot because I think
Yes.
it's something that we all are suffering and laboring through and trying to make sense of. But I feel like it's completely okay. It's just a new way of making conversation, and it's fine.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Then one of the things I admire the most about How to Forget has to be how it urges readers to pay closer observation to their surroundings,
Right.
especially in the way that you have been on certain walks. And one of the earliest pieces in the book is about how you made Mumbai your own city, which you
Hmm.
felt you belonged to when there were certain people that you were talking to, even through the gazes that you felt, which made you feel uncomfortable. So, this is how you make a place into your own. And I feel the book is also sort of urging the readers to pay closer attention to their surroundings. One of the most beautiful aspects of the book is how you have mentioned that there are certain trees whose names you do not know. And you want to learn their names because there's going to be a certain little somebody who's going to come into your life and is going to pay much more attention to you. So,
Yeah.
what is that thing like for that particular instant? What was going through your mind when you wanted to record everything and that cultivate that legacy of passing it on?
So I think that has to do with where you walk. So
Yeah.
in Bombay, I feel like I am walking for me. There was no one else in my life at that point. I was not pregnant. There was no baby on the horizon, nothing. So it was a very individualistic walk, which was more about belonging to the city, taking it
Yeah.
in, remembering the landmarks. Like, for instance, I think I wrote about it recently, but there is in Chimbai this elderly man and his dog who would come to the window in this particular blue building at 5:30 p.m. every evening. And that
Mm,
had become a kind of landmark for me. And it's a like very visceral visual memory, which defines that part of Bombay.
yeah.
And that's one kind of walk. So here I know what I'm expected to see. I understand it and I take it for myself. But when I'm walking in Goa, suddenly I'm like confronted with nature.
Yeah.
And most of the walks in Goa are like around trees and or the beach, all of this, typically around trees and nature. And what I realized is, I know there is so much of the world that I don't know about that I'm not paying attention to just because it's so absolutely tiny. So if
Yeah.
in Bombay, it's about me and myself with the city. In Goa, it's about the rest of the world. Like I come
Yeah.
across a worm and I better not step on it, or I come across an insect which looks really strange and beautiful, like it's a golden beetle with so many flecks of designs on it. And I want to stop and look at it. And I'm sure at some point, so will my child. And I
Mm,
better know what it is so that I pass something on that has meaning. And that I'd rather have that as my legacy as anything else. Like, maybe if at some point in his life he says, I know this rhinoceros beetle because my mother told me about it. I think that I've done a decent job of raising him. So that
that's beautiful.
was my hope and intention. And this is something that I picked up on a walk. I wouldn't have thought of otherwise at all.
Yeah. And this is, I think, a very powerful aspect about the book because there's this underlying notion in which you have talked about the um, difference in walking for men and women. So you
Yeah.
have very subtly but very powerfully you have mentioned the dangers, the ever-present dangers women face and go through in public spaces. So, and you've also mentioned that how you would like to walk like a man, not have that sort of agency, but to walk freely, to walk liberated, to not have that ever-present thought of being in danger. So for
Hmm.
you, is walking an act of liberation? And how did this awareness shape your writing while you were compiling all the pieces together for How to Forget?
I think the underlying thread in everything is that there is never a lack of vigilance when you're
Yeah,
walking.
right.
It's something I've never experienced, I've never known. I
Hmm.
wish I had. So I think it kind of I couldn't not mention it. It had to be there. So like in unhurried steps, in
Yeah,
unvigilant shoulders. And these are the kind of things like you can feel a gaze, when you
yeah,
walk. And never have I felt, even though in Bombay it's fairly independent, fairly, safe and
yeah,
free to walk. I have never felt unself conscious walking
yeah,
in the room because you are always aware and of maybe the presence of danger at some point or the other. So it's always at the back of your mind. So
yeah,
I don't think I've experienced that as yet, and maybe all of the writing in it also alludes to that.
yeah,
Even while I was abroad, maybe I could have felt like I'm not watched. But again, there I'm a brown person, so I do
yeah.
stand out in some way or the other. But here it's a threat to your safety and
Existence. Yeah,
existence, and you don't have a very basic freedom, which is walking, which men have.
absolutely.
I think wish I had known it once in my life. I don't think we would even remember. Like maybe after 4 years old, you develop a certain consciousness
Absolutely. Yeah,
of being safe.
yeah,
So, like I know friends who have told me stories about being stalked when they were 6 years old.
yes, yeah,
People know it. So we have grown up far too soon. And
mm,
walking is actually reflective of that. How you
yeah,
walk, the way you walk actually shows how fast you had to grow up from a
yeah,
girl to a woman. So
yeah.
I think, yeah.
And the book has captured it perfectly, beautifulully. That brings us to the end of this conversation. It was wonderful talking to you, Meera, and I would just urge everyone who's watching the this conversation to please go and buy this book, because this is one of the most beautiful books I've read, and everyone should read it. It will take you on a journey, and how you have so beautifully put together in the author's note how this book is in fact a walk, and I absolutely agree with it. So thank you once again, Mira, for agreeing to do this conversation with us. And I cannot wait for so many more people to watch this conversation, to read the book. And yeah, thank you.
Thank, thank you so much, Anushka. Lovely talking to you and such amazing questions.
Okay.
Very
Yeah,
introspective. And
yeah,
see you.
yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.